The squeak of rubber clown shoes on a hospital floor. The pop of a twisted balloon animal. Children's laughter echoing down sterile hallways. That's the face America saw. Pogo the clown. The cheerful volunteer who made sick kids smile. Now hold that image, and let me paint you another one. The same hands that shaped those balloons, they buried 26 young men, under his own home, in a cramped dirt crawl space. Some as young as 14. John Wayne Gacy's crimes weren't just murders. They were a nightmare that shattered every notion of safety. Monsters don't live next door, we told ourselves. They don't shake hands with mayors. They don't grill burgers at block parties. But Gacy did, so we called him a demon, a freak, something inhuman. But here's the truth that chills me to the bone. Monsters aren't born under a full moon. They're forged in the dark corners of ordinary houses. On quiet streets, behind closed doors. Gacy didn't put on a mask when he became the killer clown. He'd been wearing one his entire life. To survive. To hide. To pretend he was normal. The real horror isn't what he did. It's why. And the answer isn't in police reports or court transcripts. It's buried deeper. In the childhood of a boy named Johnny. A boy whose own father called him worthless. A boy locked in basements. A boy taught to hate every part of himself. What investigators uncovered in Gacy's past. It wasn't just trauma. It was a blueprint for a predator. And it's time we face the darkest truth of all. The making of a monster starts long before the first kill. Gacy's story usually starts with the bodies, with handcuffs, with the clown. We freeze him in that moment, the predator, the monster, the thing we can't understand. But what if I told you we've been looking at the wrong man? Not John Wayne Gacy, the killer, but Johnny, the boy, the child whose world was built on landmines. We dissect his crimes like surgeons, how he lured boys, where he buried them, when he snapped. But we skip the why, because the why forces us to walk into a house we'd rather burn down. A house where a father's fury wasn't just anger. It was a language. Where a mother's love wasn't sanctuary, it was silence. Where a boy's pain wasn't comforted, it was a secret. This isn't about making excuses. There are none. Gacy's victims deserve justice, not justifications. But if we ignore the poison in his roots, if we dismiss his childhood as just a bad upbringing, we miss the warning signs screaming at us in the present. So let's rewind the tape. Past the clown suit. Past the first kill. Past the lies and the charm and the civic awards. Back to a small house in Chicago. Back to a boy who learned, before he could even ride a bike, that love hurts, trust breaks, and the only thing stronger than fear is shame. The monster didn't start in that crawl space. It started in a childhood where cruelty was the curriculum, and class was always in session. Every monster has an origin story. For John Wayne Gacy, his first villain wasn't a stranger in an alley. It was the man who tucked him in at night. John Stanley Gacy. Father, provider, torturer. We throw words like strict or tough love around. This was neither. This was a war waged on a child's soul. And his weapon of choice? Humiliation. Picture an 11-year-old boy. Call him Johnny. He's just finished building a model train set, his escape, his tiny world of order. His father stumbles in, reeking of cheap whiskey and rage. He doesn't yell. He doesn't lecture. He picks up a hammer and methodically, cruelly, smashes every piece. Wood splinters, metal twists, tiny tracks snap like bones. And as the boy sobs, his father leans in, spittle flying. Look at this trash. Just like you. Worthless. This wasn't anger. This was a lesson. Lesson 1, how to hate yourself. But the classroom wasn't closed. John Stanley decided his son was too soft, too girly. His fix? He forced young John to wear dresses to school. Imagine it, walking into a 1950s classroom. Boys snickering, teachers silent, the heat of shame crawling up your neck. Your own father turning your body into a punchline. Discipline? No, this was calculated cruelty. Psychological waterboarding. His father wasn't trying to correct behavior. He was trying to annihilate the boy inside. And the beatings? They weren't outbursts. They were rituals. Belt buckles. Fists. Once, for failing to stock shelves fast enough at the family grocery store, his father knocked out 2 of his teeth. But the deepest wounds weren't physical. It was the constant message carved into his psyche day after day. You are nothing. You are weak. You deserve this. John Stanley Gacy presented himself to the world as a hard-working, no-nonsense man. a veteran, a pillar. Behind closed doors, he was a tyrant ruling a kingdom of one terrified child. And every blow, every slur, every shattered piece of childhood was laying the foundation for a future killer. The monster in the living room taught his son a terrifying truth. Violence isn't just power, it's identity. And Johnny was learning his lesson well. In every horror story, there's a monster. And then there's the one who hands him the key. Marion Gacy loved her son. That's the tragedy. She'd hold him when he cried, sneak him sandwiches when his father locked him in the basement for being too fat. Whisper, "It's okay, Johnny." Shoo, as she wiped blood from his split lip. But love without courage? It's just another kind of betrayal. Picture it, a boy maybe 9 or 10, shivering in a pitch-black basement. Locked in, because his body, his child's body, offended his father. The door creaks open hours later. Not his father, his mother. She slips him a piece of meatloaf wrapped in a napkin. Her hands tremble. Tears streak her face. She hugs him. "Eat quick," she whispers. "And for God's sake, hide those bruises before school tomorrow." Then, click, she locks him back in. This wasn't kindness. This was cruelty with a gentle face. Marion wasn't evil. She was terrified, trapped in a marriage to a violent alcoholic. A product of a time when wives obeyed. When family business stayed behind closed doors. Her silence wasn't indifference, it was survival. But to a child, survival looks an awful lot like abandonment. Johnny learned a devastating lesson in that basement. Even the softest hands won't save you. Even love looks the other way. His mother taught him the architecture of lies. Smile at the neighbors. Tell them you fell off your bike. Never let them see the real you. She showed him how to wear a mask. Not a clown's mask. A mask of normalcy. One she wore herself. Her silence wasn't passive. It was active erasure. Every hidden bruise. Every fake smile. Every time she turned away as her husband raged. She was erasing Johnny's truth. Teaching him his pain was a secret. His fear was shameful. His very existence was something to be buried. Years later, when Gacy buried his victims beneath his house, was he just returning to that basement? Recreating the only safety he ever knew? A locked door, a dirty secret, and a mother's voice whispering, "Just don't get caught." Marion Gacy's greatest failure wasn't that she didn't love her son. It's that her love came with a lock and key. And that silence? It didn't just break a boy's heart. It weaponized his despair. What if your own body turned against you? Not slowly, not quietly, but suddenly, violently, like a trap snapping shut. That's what happened to Johnny Gacy. Age 11, playing on a swing. Just a normal kid on a normal day. Until the swing flew back. Metal met skull. Crack. The pain was instant. Blinding. But the real damage? It was hidden, bleeding silently inside his head. A ticking time bomb. For months after that swing hit him, Johnny suffered. Really suffered. Blackouts where he'd collapse like a puppet with cut strings. Headaches so vicious, they felt like an ice pick stabbing behind his eyes. Nausea that left him shaking and pale. He told his father, John Stanley, "My head, it feels like it's splitting open. I can't see straight. I keep falling." His father's response? "Stop faking. You're just lazy. Looking for excuses to be useless." Imagine that. A child, terrified, his brain screaming that something is horribly wrong. And the one person who should protect him says he's lying, says he's weak, says his agony is just weakness. Johnny learned to hide it, to stumble through school dizzy, to vomit in secret, to pretend the world wasn't spinning. Because showing pain, that just meant more punishment, more rage, more "you're worthless." Years passed. The blackouts got worse. The headaches never stopped. Finally, a doctor listened. Not because his father cared, because Johnny literally couldn't stand up. They scanned his head, x-rays, tests, and what they found? A blood clot. Not a small one, not a pea, not a marble, the size of a lemon, pressing on his brain, stealing his breath, threatening to kill him. A lemon, think about that. A fist of clotted blood, growing inside a child's skull. For years, while his own father called him a liar. The surgery saved his life. But the damage? That was permanent. Brain damage, memory problems, and something else, something darker. The message was carved deep. Your body lies. Your pain is a joke. Even when you're dying, no one will believe you. And then, the weight came. After the surgery, Johnny's body changed. He ballooned, got heavy, fast. Maybe it was the brain injury. Maybe it was the trauma. Maybe it was just genetics. Didn't matter. Kids at school? Cruel. Fatty Gacy. Hey lardass, move faster. Look at the pig waddle. Laughter followed him down hallways. Pointed fingers. Shoved into lockers. Alone. Always alone. But the worst wasn't the kids. It was coming home. His father, John Stanley, would look at him with pure disgust. Like Johnny was something rotten. Something dirty. Look at you, he'd sneer. A disgusting pig. No son of mine is this weak. You're an embarrassment. He'd lock him in the basement. Not for hours. Days. With no food. Just water. To fix him. To make him a man. Can you imagine? A child. Trapped in the dark. Starving. His head still throbbing from the surgery scars. His stomach screaming for food. His heart screaming for love. And all he hears is his father's voice in his head. Disgusting. Pig. Weak. Unlovable. His body became his prison. His enemy. His shame. The head injury taught him his pain didn't matter. The weight taught him his existence didn't matter. That he was ugly. Unworthy. Something to be hidden away. He stopped seeing himself as a person. Just flesh. Flawed. Broken. Something to hate. And when you hate your own body that deeply, when you believe it's worthless, it's a short, terrible step to believing other bodies are worthless too. The clot was the size of a lemon. But the shame? That was infinite. The boy who survived a brain injury wasn't saved. He was handed a life sentence. Your body is a crime, and you're guilty for living in it. That's the dark truth no autopsy could ever reveal. John Wayne Gacy didn't just bury his victims. He'd spent a lifetime burying himself first. Every killer has a first time, a moment when the pain inside them spills out. For John Wayne Gacy, it didn't start with a human. It started with something smaller, something helpless, something that couldn't fight back. This is where the poison in his heart finally curdled, where the hurt boy became something else, something cold, something watching. Teenage John was angry, deeply, silently angry. Angry at his father, angry at his body, angry at the world that laughed at him. But he couldn't hit his father, couldn't fight the bullies, couldn't even scream. So where did all that rage go? It went into the woods, into back alleys, into places no one was watching. At first, maybe it was just curiosity. A stray cat, a caught bird, a neighbor's dog that wandered too close. He didn't just kill them. Not quickly, not cleanly. He experimented. He'd trap them, hurt them. Watch. How long could a rabbit run with a broken leg? How many times would a bird peck at a cage before it gave up? How much pain could a cat take before its eyes went blank? Years later, he'd tell psychiatrists, I wanted to see how long they'd fight. Think about that. Not if they'd fight. How long? He wasn't just hurting them. He was studying them, like a scientist. Like they weren't living things. Just objects. Objects to break. Objects to learn from. The darkest part? His father knew. John Stanley Gacy smelled the blood on his son's clothes, saw the strange stains in the garage, heard the whispers from neighbors about missing pets. Did he stop him? Did he get him help? Did he show 1 ounce of horror? No. One day he caught John, red-handed. Literally. John had a neighbor's tabby cat on his workbench. Not just dead, cut open, dissected, like a frog in biology class. His father didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't call the police. He did 2 things. First, he beat John. Savage. Methodical. Fists. Belt. The same rage he always had. Not because his son was torturing animals. Because he got caught. Second, when the beating was done, he threw a shovel at John's feet. Pointed to the backyard. Bury it. Deep. And clean this mess up before your mother sees. That shovel? It wasn't punishment. It was a lesson. Lesson learned. Violence isn't wrong. Getting caught is wrong. Pain isn't the problem. Leaving evidence is the problem. His father didn't teach him mercy, didn't teach him guilt. He taught him management, damage control. Hide the body, wash the blood away, pretend it never happened. Sound familiar? This became John's pattern, his ritual. He'd hunt, hurt, watch, learn, then bury, just like Dad taught him. The animals got bigger. Dogs, stray pigs. The experiments got colder, more precise. He wasn't just satisfying anger anymore. He was practicing, building a skill, studying suffering like it was math homework. We call this the McDonald triad: fire setting, bedwetting, animal cruelty, the warning signs of a future killer. John Gacy checked every box. But here's what the textbooks don't say. The warning signs only matter if someone's looking. If someone cares. John's father saw, and did nothing that mattered. Worse than nothing. He handed his son the shovel. He showed him how to bury the truth. When John Wayne Gacy later buried his victims under his house, he wasn't inventing a new horror. He was repeating an old lesson, one he learned over a dead cat in his garage, with his father's shadow looming over him, with the taste of blood in his mouth, and a shovel in his hands. The first blood wasn't human, but the message was, your rage is fine. Just hide the bodies. And John Gacy? He was an excellent student. What happens when you're taught to hate? Who you are. Not what you do. Not what you think. Your very core. Your soul. For John Gacy, the war wasn't just outside. It was inside his skin. A battle he could never escape. Because the enemy was himself. Teenage John was confused. Alone. Starved for connection. And somewhere in that mess of pain and loneliness, he felt a pull. A quiet attraction. To other boys. It wasn't loud. Wasn't some big revelation. Just feelings. Fleeting glances. A warmth in his chest he didn't understand. A sense of being seen. He didn't have words for it. This was the 1950s. Small-town Chicago. Nobody talked about that. Not openly. Not kindly. But his father? He saw. John Stanley Gacy had a radar for weakness. And this, to him, it was the ultimate weakness. The ultimate failure. He didn't ask questions. Didn't offer comfort. He attacked. He called his son names. Sissy. Fairy. Girl. Spit flying with the words. He mocked John's walk. His voice. His interests. Anything soft. Anything gentle. Anything that wasn't John Stanley's idea of a real man. But words weren't enough. John Stanley decided to fix his son. He dragged teenage John to brothels. Forced him inside. Paid women. Make him a man, he'd growl outside the door. Imagine it. A scared teenager. Confused about his own feelings. Hating his body. Full of shame. Pushed into a dark room with a stranger. Expected to perform. To prove something. To be something he wasn't. It wasn't education. It was violation. Another kind of violence. Another lesson carved deep. Who you are is wrong. What you feel is sick. You are broken. And I will break you more to fix you. The result? A shattered mirror. John Gacy spent his entire life trying to glue the pieces back together. Trying to be someone, anyone his father wouldn't hate. Anyone the world would applaud. He became a model citizen. On paper, he joined clubs. Ran community projects. Smiled for cameras. Shook hands with politicians. He even became a Democratic precinct captain. Powerful. Connected. Respected. He married. Twice. Had kids. Played the part. The house. The job. The perfect mask. And then he became Pogo the Clown. The ultimate disguise. Pain over the pain. A big red smile stitched on. Twisting balloons. Making children laugh. Hiding the ghost inside. Think about it. A man terrified of being seen as weak. Dressing as a clown. A symbol some people find silly. Even frightening. Was it control? Power? Or just hiding? Because beneath the grease paint? Beneath the handshakes and the barbecues and the civic awards? Was a man drowning in self-loathing. John Gacy didn't just hate his father. He hated himself. Every part. The body his father called pig. The desires his father called sick. The softness his father beat out of him, but never quite killed. He chased approval like a drug. Needed it. Craved it. Because maybe, just maybe, if enough people clapped for him, if enough hands shook his, if enough children smiled at Pogo, he could silence the voice in his head. His father's voice. Now his voice. Worthless. Disgusting. Unlovable. Wrong. The ghost in the mirror wasn't a monster. Not yet. It was a broken boy. A boy who never knew what it felt like to be loved. For simply being himself. When he finally snapped, when the rage and the shame and the self-hatred boiled over, he wasn't just killing others. He was trying to kill the ghost. The weakness. The sissy. The part of himself his father taught him to despise. Every victim. Every buried secret. Was another attempt to shatter the mirror. To destroy the reflection he couldn't bear to see. John Wayne Gacy spent his life running from the ghost in the mirror. But the tragedy is, he never realized the ghost was the only real part of him left. Everything else, the politician, the father, the clown, just masks over a wound that never healed. In the end, the mirror won. It showed him exactly what his father made him believe he was. A monster. And he believed it. Here's the question we're afraid to ask out loud. Was John Wayne Gacy always going to become a monster? Did that little boy playing on the swing Already have a killer inside him? Was it written in his bones? In his blood? Let's be brutally clear. Millions of children endure hell. And they don't bury 26 people under their house. They grow up. They break the cycle. They find love. They build families. They heal. They become teachers, nurses, artists, friends. Trauma isn't destiny. So why Gacy? Why did he become this? The ugly truth? His childhood wasn't just bad. It was a perfect storm. A poison recipe. Every ingredient measured. Every cruelty calculated. Until the damage wasn't just deep. It was unsurvivable. Ingredient 1, the sadist. His father, John Stanley Gacy. Not just an angry drunk. A sadist. He didn't just hit his son. He enjoyed breaking him. Smashing his toys. Forcing him into dresses. Locking him in the dark. Knocking out his teeth. Every act wasn't just violence. It was a message. You are nothing. Your pain amuses me. I own you. Ingredient 2, the silent partner. His mother, Marion. Her love was real, but her silence was deadly. Sneaking food to the basement wasn't rescue. It was collaboration. Hide the bruises. Don't tell. Pretend. She taught him his suffering was a secret. His existence was shameful. Her inaction wasn't passive. It was permission. Permission for his father's cruelty. Permission for his own self-loathing to fester. Ingredient 3, the blind eye. Society. The neighbors who saw a bruised, overweight boy in a dress and looked away. The teachers who heard kids call him Fatty Gacy daily and did nothing. The doctors who dismissed his blinding headaches for years until a lemon-sized clot nearly killed him. A community that saw a child drowning and handed his father more weights. They didn't ask questions, didn't intervene, didn't care. The message? You don't matter. Your pain is invisible. No one is coming to save you. Ingredient 4, the body betrayed. The head injury that left him broken. The agonizing clot ignored. The weight gain that made him a target. His own flesh became a prison, a source of relentless shame. Bullied at school, tortured at home. His body wasn't his home. It was his enemy's battlefield. Mix these together. Stir for 18 years. A sadistic father. A silent mother. A blind society. A body screaming in pain. What do you get? Not a man. A void. A hollow space where self-worth should be. Where empathy could grow. Where connection might take root. When you systematically dehumanize a child. When you teach them, day after day, blow after blow, that they are worthless, disgusting, unlovable, a burden, a mistake. You don't just hurt them. You erase them. You create a vacuum. An emptiness so vast, so dark, it demands to be filled. For some, it fills with addiction, or depression, or suicide. For John Wayne Gacy, it filled with rage. A cold, black, endless rage. Rage at his father. Rage at his mother. Rage at the doctors. Rage at the bullies. Rage at the world that abandoned him. Rage at the body that betrayed him. Rage at the reflection he hated. And rage like that, it doesn't stay inside. It can't. It metastasizes. It seeks an outlet. A target. Something or someone weaker. Something to control. Something to hurt. Just like he was hurt. The animals were practice. The victims were the final target. Was it inevitable? No. Another child in the same house with the same parents might have broken differently. Might have run away. Might have found one kind teacher. One friend. One moment of grace. John Gacy found none. The storm was too perfect. The damage too total. Could it have been stopped? Yes, at 100 points. If his father had sought help for his own rage. If his mother had grabbed her son and run. If a neighbor had called the police. If a doctor had listened sooner. If a teacher had seen the pain behind the fat and the bruises. But no one stopped it. No one stepped into the storm. So the void grew. The rage boiled. And the little boy who just wanted the pain to stop became the man who made sure others felt it too. This isn't fate. It's failure. A catastrophic failure of everyone who should have protected a child. Gacy's childhood doesn't excuse his crimes. Nothing could, but it forces us to face an unbearable truth. Monsters aren't born in a vacuum. They're manufactured, neglect by neglect, blow by blow, silence by silence. And the blueprint is written in the broken childhoods we choose not to see. Gacy's story feels like a horror movie. A monster, a crawl space, an ending that chills your bones. But here's the truth that should terrify you more. This isn't just about him. It's a warning flare shot into our own backyard. And it's burning right now. We lock up killers. We dissect their crimes. We call them evil and turn away. Because the alternative is too hard. Too uncomfortable. Too real. But the data doesn't lie. Cold numbers scream a hot truth. Children who suffer abuse are 50% more likely to become violent. 50%. That's not a statistic. It's a time bomb. Think about that number. 50%. For every 2 broken children, 1 carries that brokenness into the world. As rage, as cruelty, as violence. Gacy wasn't born a killer. He was forged. Blow by blow. Insult by insult. Silence by silence. And every ingredient in his hell. We still see them today. The father screaming worthless at his son in a supermarket. The mother hiding bruises with makeup before school. The teacher ignoring the quiet kid flinching at loud noises. The neighbor dismissing shouts next door as just a family argument. We call it none of my business. They'll work it out. Parenting is hard. No, these aren't just private moments. They're roots. Roots of violence. Roots of addiction. Roots of despair. Roots of catastrophe. Every ignored cry. Every excused bruise. Every silenced secret. It's not family business. It's fertilizer for monsters. We can't go back. We can't save Johnny Gacy. We can't unbury his victims. But we're not helpless. Not even close. That ticking sound you hear? It's not in Gacy's crawl space anymore. It's in the house down your street. In the apartment upstairs. In the school hallway. So here's the only question that matters now. Whose pain are you ignoring? Is it the kid at the park, always alone, clothes too big, eyes too old? Is it the coworker who flinches when you raise your hand too fast? Is it the teenager who jokes about hating themselves a little too much? Is it the neighbor whose shouts echo just a little too often through thin walls? See them. Hear them. Stop looking away. Report the scream. Ask the quiet kid if they're okay, and mean it. Offer the struggling parent a coffee, a break, a lifeline. Donate to a shelter. Volunteer at a crisis line. Be the person who steps into the storm. Gacy's childhood wasn't fate. It was a cascade of failures. Failures we repeat every single day we choose silence over action. The aftershock of his crimes isn't just grief. It's a mandate to listen harder, to care deeper, to speak louder. Because monsters aren't born in the dark. They're created in the light of everyone who looks the other way. That warning flare? It's lighting up your street right now. What will you do? The darkest graves aren't always underground. Sometimes, they're inside us. Before John Wayne Gacy ever dug that crawl space, before he ever hit a single body, he'd spent a lifetime burying himself alive. Picture the boy, not the killer. Johnny, 9 years old, locked in the basement again. No light, no food, just the smell of damp earth and his own fear. His father's voice still ringing in his ears. Disgusting. Worthless. Stay down there where you belong. That basement wasn't punishment. It was practice. Practice for the man he'd become. The man who didn't just find a crawl space under his house. He built it, deliberately. A hidden chamber. A secret tomb. For the bodies he'd fill it with. The boy who hid in basements became the man who lived in them. His childhood wasn't an excuse. Nothing could excuse what he did. But it wasn't just a sad story either. It was a blueprint. A step-by-step guide to building a monster. Step 1. Shatter a child's worth. Smash his trained set. Call him nothing. Step 2. Trap him in shame. Lock him in darkness. Force him into silence. Step 3. Make his body a prison. Ignore his pain. Mock his weight. Starve him. Step 4. Weaponize his rage. Hand him the shovel. Teach him to bury the evidence. Step 5. Erase who he really is. Call him sissy. Force him into brothels. Make him wear a mask. Follow these steps. You don't get a man. You get a hollow place. A walking wound. A ghost who learned one terrible truth. The only power left is the power to hurt like you've been hurt. We hear broken home and think, sad. Tough luck. Move on. That's how we miss it. How we miss the boy trembling in the dark. The boy dissecting animals just to feel control. The boy staring into a mirror, hating the ghost looking back. Gacy didn't fall from the sky. He was built, brick by brick, cruelty by cruelty, silence by silence. Brick 1, a father's hammer smashing a train set. Brick 2, a mother locking the basement door behind her. Brick 3, a doctor dismissing a lemon-sized blood clot. Brick 4, a bully's laugh. Fatty Gacy. Brick 5, a society looking the other way. Monsters aren't born. They're manufactured. In ordinary houses. On quiet streets. In the shadows we're too busy or too uncomfortable to see. One cruel word. One closed eye. One buried scream. That's all it takes to lay the first brick. So when you hear about the next Gacy, the next killer who shocks the world, don't just ask what he did. Ask who built him. Look past the clown mask, past the mugshot, past the monster. Look for the boy in the basement, the one we all left there. Because until we start digging those graves open, the crawl spaces will never stay empty.